We are chatting about something that has truly transformed my life. Using feminine energy to actually boost your own self love and self worth. What makes feminine energy so powerful is that you can actually use it as a tool, as a channel to bring more self love into your life, to enhance your self worth, to make you feel better about yourself, to connect deeper with yourself. I want to talk a little bit about my journey with feminine energy and how I kind of got more into it. So, feminine energy was something that I discovered, I think, like a few years ago now. And this was something completely new to me. I didn't know what feminine energy was or, why it was even important. But I just knew that I needed a different way of doing things. I needed a different way of feeling, a different way of being, because I was very much stuck in my masculine for my whole life. And what I mean by that was I was your stereotypical, straight A student, grinding, working really hard, putting all this pressure on myself, like really in my like let's freaking go energy and achieve and do the most and let's be the best, which, by the way, is amazing. I love my younger high achiever self. She formed me into who I am today. We need to recognize both the good and the shadow side to who we've been and to the things in our life. So, no shade against that. But I realized that I needed to make a shift within myself because I was burnt out. Point blank. After living my whole life in my masculine, it burnt me the F out. I started having hormonal issues, adrenal issues, which I'm still kind of dealing with here and there, energy level issues. Like my body was starting to exemplify this burnout because as women, it's not always sustainable to be in our masculine energy. And so I was very much stuck under the conditioning of society's programming, which very much is in the masculine, by the way. Masculine energy just means we have both masculine and feminine in ourselves, by the way. It's not either or. It doesn't matter boy or girl. We have both of those energies. And the best thing you can do is to start to recognize within yourself when it's better to utilize, either energy. At what point in your cycle, at what point in what you're doing, like at what point of your life, what season you're in, what chapter you're in, you can start to recognize when it's time to harness both and in which ways you want to harness each energy. And so masculine energy is the very much the doing energy, right? It's the achieving, it's the logic, it's the structure, it's the grinding, it's that hustle energy. It's what society typically rewards us for, right? The productivity and the output and the success. Versus the feminine energy, she's coming from a softer place. She's coming from a more intuitive place. She is, more in flow. She's maybe more creative. She's, more in touch with her emotions, her intuition. It's a little bit less of the outward and a little bit more of the inward focus. That's kind of the way I see it. And so even for myself, for example, something that I'm working through when it comes to feminine versus masculine energy, and something that's just been so deeply programmed in me for my entire life now, is learning how to not base all of my self-worth on my success and my accomplishments and my output and my productivity. So it doesn't mean that I'm not still actively working towards, success and my output and the accomplishments I want to achieve, but it actually means that I'm just switching the energetics I have around it. And so for majority of my life, I was under the energy and the approach when it comes to feminine energy or masculine energy, feminine energy, my life, things that I was doing was that, okay, if I work hard and I achieve and I just put pressure on myself and expectations and I'm really hard on myself so that I can be the best and do the most, then I'm going to feel worthy. Then I'm going to feel self-love. Then I'm going to feel good about myself. And what I'm slowly starting to realize is that that's not a sustainable model. And in that model that society teaches us to have about, work hard, achieve equals now I can feel good about myself. Then I can feel self-love and self-worth. I'm actually learning the more feminine approach is to switch it around. So how can I take the end of the equation from the previous model and now bring it to the forefront? bring it to the beginning of the equation. So because I feel good about myself, because I'm giving myself that self-worth and that self-love, and in addition, I'm working hard, therefore, I'm going to have even more success, more achievement, more fulfillment, more joy, more whatever success looks like to you, right? How can we switch that equation around? And so for me personally, that's what I'm dealing with right now. I've made a lot of improvements, but it's still something I'm working through. When you have so many years of this society's conditioning, it's not going to go away overnight. So for me, like I said, I'm just switching the energetics around it. So now I'm focused on building up my own self-worth and my self-love so freaking much that nothing outside of me, even if I don't have a productive day, even if something doesn't go as successful as I thought it would or as I wanted, that doesn't shake me anymore, because I know my worth. I know who I am. And that's all that matters now. So that is just a little intro onto why feminine energy can really boost our own self-worth and self-love, because you're infusing the core inherent energy of feminine energy, which is love at the end of the day, love and compassion, and bringing it into yourself, right? The feminine is love. That's like our at the core of like femininity and motherhood and womanhood. Like that's love. And so let's bring that energy from the feminine and infuse it into our own self-worth and self-love journey. Because society is not going to tell you this. Society really doesn't want you to know this, because if it did, then they wouldn't be able to sell you things. You see the issue here? So, working on the feminine energy, and I'm going to give you specific ways on how you can actually start to do that, will help you feel better about yourself, will help you with your self-love and self-worth, and will therefore bring you, the success, the output, the accomplishments, the things that you're desiring. So let's work on the feminine. Let's work on connecting with ourselves, bringing out more of that love, and you will see what starts to happen in your life. You'll be less burnt out. You'll honestly feel like prettier. It's a weird thing to say, but I've noticed that with myself. Like when I'm just like constantly beating myself down and like putting myself down and overworking myself, like I just don't look as like vibrant and pretty and happy. But when I'm bringing that like juicy feminine energy into myself, like I look better, I feel better. That's it, point blank. I attract better. So take with that as you will. But anyways, let's get into it. So if you want to use and harness your powerful feminine energy, your God-given right, my girl, okay? Your God-given right, your juicy, amazing feminine energy. If you want to harness that to boost your own self-love and self-worth, here's how you're going to do it. Number 1, you are going to start to be kinder to yourself, because guess what? Feminine energy is that soft. It is that kind energy. So we're going to lean into it. And by the way, throughout this whole episode, I don't want you to think that masculine energy is bad, because masculine energy is an amazing thing to tap into and to harness within yourself to get things done. But I'm asking, can we fuse and bring both together? So number 1, we have this fallacy that the harder we are on ourselves, the more we're going to achieve, the more we're going to get done. And what I'm learning with the feminine, maybe that works better for men, but at least with the feminine, all that does is it really starts to shoot and bring you down. It makes you a smaller version of yourself. It brings down your self-worth. It doesn't make you feel as good, and therefore you're not going to show up as good over time. Over time, it leads to that burnout. So if you're also like this super high achieving girl, I would want to tell you, like, you need to give yourself positive reinforcement instead of putting yourself down. You need to be kinder to yourself instead of constantly, putting these really tough expectations on yourself. Because over time, the more you start becoming kinder to yourself, the more you're going to kind of naturally live in your feminine, because you're going to have that balanced energy. It's not always going to be so tough. So what are you speaking to yourself? What are you saying to yourself? How are you, bringing more of a feminine or masculine approach to this relationship with yourself? So even on the days, like I said, my example earlier, if I'm not as productive, quote unquote, I'm not going to beat myself up for it anymore because you know what? I am worthy. I love myself. I'm amazing. Period. It's not reliant on something external of me to tell me that. I'm going to tell myself that first. So be kind to yourself, and you're naturally just going to live more in your feminine, anyways. Number 2, a beautiful way to infuse feminine energy into your self worth and into your self love is to understand your cycle better and to make modifications kind of around the different points in your cycle. So, what do I mean by this? This is something that completely changed my life because once I understood my cycle, and by the way, I can't believe I like just finally started understanding my cycle like 2 years ago now when I started, understanding the different phases that my body goes through each month, the different hormonal fluctuations, which every woman should know. But once I started to understand that and to learn more about it, it made me quickly realize no wonder why we have such a hard time constantly producing the same amount of output every single day, every single month, because our bodies and our hormone levels are fluctuating at different points all throughout the month. And so, for example, yesterday I was deep in my luteal phase. We all know the dreaded luteal phase. And I was trying to get work done and I was like, holy shit, why can I not focus? I'm not getting anything done. It was taking me so much energy to try and do anything. And then I looked at my Flow app, the app where I track my period, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm literally about to get my period. And I knew it. I could feel it in my body where I was like, I'm definitely getting my period tomorrow. Guess what? I got my period this morning, and it all makes sense why I am not as productive the day before my cycle. And so once I realized that yesterday, I instead switched my whole reframe, my whole mindset around it. And I was like, okay, well, if I'm not going to be as productive today, I might as well do something that's going to like fill me up and make me feel more rested and nourished so that I can be more productive next week or the next day or whenever I'm starting to feel better again. Right? It's that balance, the yin and yang. It's not the like, you need to be up here every single day. It's more of like, okay, let me like allow the fluctuations so that the highs can be even higher and the lows, quote unquote, can be more of a restorative time. So instead, I took the pressure off myself, made myself a nourishing meal. I did a little bit of work, but it was like more chill work, like something I could do on my couch. I wasn't like putting this expectation on myself to complete the big, big, big things that I needed to do. And instead, I could kind of balance out that energy. And I understand if you're, working a corporate job, you don't have this luxury as much. But I would ask you, can you be a little bit kinder to yourself? Even if you do have to work, even if you do still have to do the things, can you have a softer approach to yourself with saying like, oh my gosh, okay, I'm on day 1 of my period. Maybe let's not go to Barry's at 5 a.m. and then run and get coffee with this person and run and blow out my hair and look amazing and go to work and try to be the next CEO and, make all of these things happen. Like maybe just understand where you're at and then you can better plan for it more accordingly and be a little bit smarter on your approach. Do you get what I'm saying? It's not about necessarily changing your whole life, but can you understand your cycle better to better optimize it? And therefore, that will help you feel better about yourself. That'll make you have higher self-worth and higher self-love because you're honoring your body at every point of the cycle. You're not fighting against your body, you're working with it. And I wish every woman would understand this. And trust me, I'm not saying it's easy because even I struggle with it sometimes because I still want to be, my best every single day. But I just wish every woman would understand that like that's just really not always realistic. And we can do things to make it better. But it's okay if you're not at your best every single day at every point in your cycle. That's actually quite normal. Okay, number 3. I want you, if you want to use feminine energy to boost your self-love and self-worth, I want you to start to value your intuition more. Feminine energy is intuition. Feminine energy is that intuitive nature that we have. And if you want more self-love and self-worth, start following your intuition. Because let me tell you something, once I started following my intuition, once I started living from the voice of my intuition and making actions based on my intuition, even if they didn't make sense in the moment, I have never felt more self-trust and more self-worth in my life than when I started doing that. Because then I did it and then I could look back and think, oh my gosh, thank God I did that. because now I know that it's safe to trust my intuition. Therefore, I'm going to do it again and I'm going to do it again. And I'm going to build on it every single day until I have this stronger relationship with myself. You start to feel better about yourself at the end of the day because you're not outsourcing as much. You're not asking everyone's opinion and you're not asking everyone what to do. You instead go inwards and you start to value your intuition more. And when you value your intuition, you're valuing your feminine energy more. And when you value your feminine energy more, you're valuing yourself. Valuing yourself. Okay, that was a tongue twister. And lastly, tip number 4 to harness your feminine energy to boost your self-love and self-worth is to value the time spent going inwards more. So basically, every one of these tips is kind of just going against the grain of what society's going to tell you. So I'm going to tell you. But if you can start to value your inner world, your time alone, your inner relationship with yourself more than just the external and the outward, you're going to feel so damn good about yourself. And let me tell you why. When you feel good about yourself, and the way to feel good about yourself is to go inwards more, is to spend more time alone, is to understand that you're already a whole, amazing, worthy human being as you are because you're already born, you start to feel better about yourself. And when you start to feel better about yourself and you start to value yourself more, you're naturally just going to embody that like really beautiful feminine energy. And you're naturally going to have more self-love and self-worth because feminine energy, like I said, is about that like inner creative, that inner intuition, the inner connection with yourself, going deeper within yourself. And I also want to mention that something I love to do at different points of my cycle is to understand, to kind of connect a few of the points here, is to understand when is a better time for me to go inwards more versus outwards. And like I said, I just got my period. During my period, my cycle, I love to go inwards more. I know that my intuition is heightened during this time. I know that I can spend more time alone journaling and really reflecting on the month and thinking about this next month and like clearing anything that's no longer needed in my life. Like just like our body is detoxing right now physically, we can also do like a mental, emotional, spiritual detox, doing that inner work, that inner energetic work. And so I love doing that during this phase of my cycle. I've really found it to be such a beautiful thing. And the more you focus on that inner world with yourself, the more you're just going to improve your self-love and your self-worth. And that's the beautiful thing about feminine energy is that it all works in conjunction and hand in hand. And it's really all about getting back to our inner essence, our inner woman, essentially, reclaiming that power of what it means to be a feminine essence and a feminine goddess in a way. So I think I'm going to leave this episode at that. Those 4 tips and using your feminine energy to really harness and improve your self-love and your self-worth. Let me know if you want more on feminine energy. I was thinking to make a part 2, actually, maybe about feminine energy in business or career or how to use that in that way, because I also don't hear enough people talking about that. So let me know what you think. But I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, feel free to let me know. Take a screenshot, share it on your story, send it to a friend. Let's get the word out. Let's get the pod out. Feminine energy for the girls. And I'm sending all my love. Mwah.